Welcome back to another episode of the AfterHours podcast. I'm your host, Francisco, co-host today I have Joey, and we are at Summit Smokehouse and Tap Room. We have three gentlemen joining us as the guests today. We have Eric Foch, bartender. We have Brendan Liebberg, sales? What do you do? Cylinder? Okay. And then we got Alex Giovanni, kitchen manager. All right. What's going on, boys? Thanks for having us.
How we doing? Thanks for being here, man.
Thanks for being here.
So right now we all got a couple beers in front of us. I have the Hobo Brown Ale. Joey, what do you got?
The train wreck.
What do you guys got?
I got the train wreck as well.
Nitro Raz Wreck.
And I have the only IPA with the sticky fingers.
So the train wreck, where does that first come from? I see that's like one of your flagship beers that you guys have on the menu.
So the train wreck originally started way back in, I believe the first time it was brewed was early 2000s, and it was actually a winter warmer, which is why it's such a high ABV, so easy drinking. Winter warmers are supposed to be, heavy but light, if that kind of makes sense. Heavy ABV, but light and easy to drink. And so it's brewed with maple syrup and honey locally. And so those two extra ingredients kind of bump up the ABV and makes it super easy to drink, as you can tell. Mm-hmm. And so it started out with just being called winter warmer. But as people started drinking it more and realizing after 3, it's like, holy crap, it's kind of a train wreck. It turns once, you and the beer are both train wrecks. Okay, so,
all right. Well, hopefully by the end of the episode, we'll all be there.
Probably, yeah. Maybe after 1 or 2 at least.
So when did you guys each start working here?
I started, technically, I was working weekends because I was also working another part-time job. I was exiting that one and entering this one in December of 2018, which was at our old location, and then we moved here a month and a half after that. And so, sorry. But yeah, I've been working here now for 3 years. Yeah.
Awesome. Location.
Thanks, Eric. Brendan, how about you?
I started working here just after that 2018. In May, I believe, is when I started working here. So
2019?
Yep, 2019. So I've been here for just under around 2 years or so, 2.5 years. But yeah, started working here. I started working here helping out in the back from Jimmy John's. So I didn't really have any experience with brewing or cellar work or anything like that, sanitizing, cleaning, any of that before I started working here. So I was doing a kind of part-time washing kegs, scrubbing mold, pretty basic stuff, and then working my way up and getting more trained in the 3 or 4 months after I started working here. But then eventually I quit working at Jimmy John's and have been working here full time for about 2 years.
For sure.
And Alex? I started here back in January 2020, so just about 1.5 years I've been here. And started out as a dishwasher, and when COVID hit, didn't have work for a while, and then got hired back as a cook. And now I run the kitchen in the back, and mainly had fast food experience before, but I learned more about food than I ever have when I took the kitchen manager job. So in a 3-week span, I expanded my knowledge by so much, just learning about smoked meats, and now I can feel like I can do anything with food, but I know there's still a lot more that I gotta learn. So,
for sure. As the kitchen manager and well versed in food, what do you think is the best thing on your menu?
I think the best thing on our menu is the wings.
Okay.
If there was anything I knew, before coming into the kitchen manager job, it was chicken.
Yeah.
So I knew exactly what to do with our chicken wings, our pulled chicken, and our half chickens, and the other stuff. I had to learn how to smoke brisket. The whole crutching process, and how to really get that tender, hold it up. It's just about to break off your finger kind of brisket. The pull off the bone ribs. But I knew chicken, but yeah, the wings are probably what I would recommend if you ever came here.
I'm from the Metro Detroit area, so I grew up eating Sweetwater Tavern in Detroit, which have been voted best wings in Michigan many times, and I will put ours up against theirs any day of the week.
Wow. Let's go.
I will go on record saying that.
I see a lot of pictures online of the brisket and mac and cheese though, so that's got to be a pretty popular one.
That was a dish we had on the old menu, and it's not on there anymore. Some people kind of do order it as a secret menu item because they know. But on the new menu, we'll have like a mac and cheese dish. You can pick whatever kind of meat you want to go on it. So, yeah, we're gonna give that people the option again.
Sounds amazing. So you guys kind of talked about how long you've been here. How long has Summit Smokehouse actually been in operation, though?
We opened February of 2019 was when we officially opened to the public. We had about a half a month's worth of soft opens, trying different things out, trying to see like what kind of personnel worked. And so like I personally don't necessarily call those soft opens like when we opened.
Yeah.
It wasn't until February that we actually opened. And so, yeah.
So are the soft opens more for like training and getting the processes down, or is it more of like okay,
seeing like how the POS system's working?
Gotcha.
Do we need to change any functionality or fluidity with the buttons, with the menu items? How's the menu working out with the people? Like, do we have it described properly? How's the staff reacting to everything? Do we have the table set up right? Things like that. Literally every kind of minutia that could be maybe not thought of in normal like paper planning or brainstorming gets brought out with the soft open.
Okay,
For sure. And it's also just like a little, like if you guys watched John Tappert's Bar Rescue, they do
times,
that
yeah.
like stress test, whatever. It's kind of like the same thing, just to see how the ship's running, that type of deal.
So you've pretty much been here since the beginning, then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this
Both of
building.
you?
This building, anyway. I mean, I was in a few months afterwards, but
I helped build most part of this building.
Okay.
Like at least out in front of house.
And then you guys mentioned there was a place before. What was that?
That's where originally I started at, and where I drank since I was 21, and I just turned 30. So it was a long time there, but it was this tiny little quaint tap room over by the train tracks up on Pickard.
Okay.
And it was the same bar, same taps, same beer.
Okay.
Like we have new brewing equipment, but for the most part, same brewing equipment. And it was a bare bones brewery. Like we had bar sandwiches, chips as sides, pickle spear, tiny little fire. For some reason, we had some god awful carpet, but it was like it like added to the charm of the place.
Mm-hmm.
And so we just like we kind of outlived our life there, kind of like how a crab molts. Like it just had to find a new place to live.
Yep.
And so we ended up moving here and having this wonderful new tap room instead of, at the old place, the bartenders, if you were working Monday through Thursday, you were by yourself, which included making food, pouring beers, doing everything. And so if you got busy, like you could definitely call someone in, but it usually didn't do that because you knew you were going to make good money.
Yeah.
And so it was definitely one of those things where you had to be able to handle stress, which you still have to do here, but it was fun because everyone was just like in for the ride. And then weekends there's 2 people, so you had a little bit of help.
One thing I want to touch on as well is the aesthetic back here is pretty fucking dope.
Yeah.
Been to other breweries and it's just not a vibe. It's usually just kind of like rustic and you see like 1 or 2. And
That's why I like working
Yeah.
here too. It's like even like the first time I walked in, I was like, wow, this place like just screams smokehouse.
Yeah.
Like even if you don't smell it, like it's just the aesthetic of it screams it.
So what do you guys have going on in those wood barrels back
so
there?
the barrels are 11 of them are Jim Beam barrels, or are like used Jim Beam barrels. We got them a day afterwards. They were after they were drank. Very, very young barrels. So they were capped and we got them like the next day. So as soon as they were emptied, we pour hot water, like 180 degree water into them and let them steam for about half an hour before filling them. Dump the excess water out. It helps to sanitize if there is anything starting to like take hold and grow inside the barrels. The 180 degree water is pretty good at killing like most microbes.
Right.
And it also helps the wood it wets the wood basically, so it expands, and then when you put the beer in it, it's less likely to leak through like the slats that in the sides, obviously, because it's been moved around a lot. It's gone from having whiskey in it under pressure to not being under pressure anymore. And they're fairly new, so we haven't noticed any leaks with them. But sometimes when you get older barrels, they have issues where you have to put barrel wax on the outside to stop them from leaking. But we put train wreck in those. So there's 11 55-gallon or so barrels of going to be Jim Beam train wreck. So we're not sure what we're going to call it yet, but it's kind of like our bourbon barrel aged.
Yeah,
train
traditionally it's a bourbon barrel aged train wreck that we do for our Christmas time. We've done that
every year pretty much for a while.
Yeah, for bourbon barrel aging or barrel aging beers has been popular since the early 2000s. And, we didn't really pick up that much steam at that time, but I think that's when we started doing it just because we still wanted to be what all the other breweries are doing. So,
Right.
Current, whatnot. But
So is that going to be the same percentage as the regular train wreck?
maybe a little higher.
Okay.
It doesn't pick up too much, but it'll pick up maybe half of 1%.
Yeah,
So
you won't normally get over a percent or two. Like, if you get an extra 2% out of a barrel,
it's a very fresh. We
Yeah,
might though because those were very fresh barrels.
Yeah.
Because some of that whiskey is in the wood, and now that's gonna get into the train rack, and it's going to bump up the ABV. Because even a little bit of 80 proof liquor, Jim Beam is going to bump up so it could go up to 9, maybe 9.2. Yeah, Jim Beam. And then there's a couple other barrels that we have. We're gonna put our Sacred Groot into a peach brandy barrel, which is gonna be very good. We normally make a peach Groot, where we take peach juice and we add it to the Sacred Groot basically to make it peachy, but we want to see how the barrel adds peach flavor to it since it's had peach brandy in it. Gotcha. So, and it might add a little bit different notes.
A little bit of heat.
Yeah.
And then just to touch on what beer that is, because Groots are an ancient style of beer. Actually, I don't want to have someone come after me after saying this, but Groots are very old in the terms of it's when the monks were the primary brew makers or brewers, and so hops aren't really included. And I say aren't really because there aren't any hops in it.
No hops.
There might be, yeah. And so any residual bitterness that you get is from whatever herbs and spices that we brew with it, and so. Our particular Groot, which is the Sacred Groot, is sweet gale, yarrow root, and marsh rosemary, and it is the most unlike a beer you will ever drink in your life.
Okay.
And the one thing I was going to go down and say is we are probably one of the largest producers of Groots in the country. Because New Belgium did one line of Groots, but it was a very, very, very limited run. So with them, that was probably what we produce normally.
Yeah.
And so we almost always have Sacred on, or at least a peach, or the peach Groot's very popular during the spring and summertime. We have people that come in from out of state because they're from here. When first time we did it here, they bought 4 cases and went right back to Indiana.
Yep.
It's
hard to find.
It's legit too. It's one of those beers that every time you have it,
actually,
it's gonna taste the same, and it's gonna taste just as good every time you drink it. Though.
Yeah, I was gonna say we've interviewed over 50 places, and I don't believe I've heard anybody talk about it.
No, I haven't heard.
It was before hops were introduced, which hops were introduced in the 1400s with the So we're talking we're literally talking 900 through 1200 is when these were the primary beer styles. Okay. And so we did that because when we were trying to be
unique,
avant-garde and forward-thinking, instead of trying something that no one's ever done, we decided to do something that had been done just now.
Long time.
Modern brewing techniques, modern ingredients, trying to get the same result though.
For sure. You mentioned there's a peach infusion. Is that similar to what you did with the raspberry?
Yeah,
in that
basically.
beverage?
So it's a juice concentrate. It is fruit juice, but it's just fruit juice with the water taken out, basically. So it's just a syrup essentially that we add into it. The peach Groot, I believe it's 24. Actually, I shouldn't probably say that the recipe to it, but anyway.
Let's not
do that. But it's there's a measured amount of peach juice that goes into the Groot.
Secret herbs and spices.
But yeah, and it differs for all the different kinds of beer. Our raspberry wheat has a different amount of raspberry juice in it. it's really, I like that aspect of it, like as a mixer, kind of. I'm not a mixologist or anything like that, but I like to like combining flavors, seeing like, the base beer, and then, what could we, like, how do you bring out certain notes from that beer? How do you cover up things that are less pleasant that you don't really want to taste? Like wheats have kind of like a bitter aftertaste to them. So if you add some like raspberry, it kind of adds a little bit of tang to it, like at the start, and then it kind of the sweetness helps to smooth out the end of it. So when you drink it, it's a lot more pleasant. You're like, okay, and it's a nice like sipping beer during the spring or summer. Or like what he was saying with the winter warmer beers, like higher ABVs, like stout, imperial stouts, porters, things that are heavier, things that are thicker, milkshake stouts, but anything barrel aged too. Like it gives you that boozy like warmth, basically. Like when it goes down, then you feel like a nice warm sensation follow after it, and makes you feel warmer. You don't actually get warmer, but it makes you feel warmer.
Right. The illusion.
It's the illusion of the warmth. It's
placebo effect.
Yeah.
How many times a year do you guys change up your brew list?
Sometimes daily.
Yeah.
So, unlike other breweries, we don't serve out of serving tanks, which would be large vessels that have a direct line to each tap line. We keg everything because we are also the distribution. And so, like yesterday, I changed 3 kegs. We didn't change beers, but we changed kegs. And so I would actually say like a fresh reset maybe 3 times a year.
Yeah.
But that it happens naturally. We don't force it by any means. The only time we do is when we have our Beers of Christmas tap takeover, which we brew a new beer, or we have a new beer every single day for 30 days. And so it starts the day after Thanksgiving and ends on the 1st, New Year's. And so after that, we do a tap takeover, and it's a good thing we got 22 taps because then we can run just about all of them.
So we don't have anything left over unless we want to keep it, because we have some beers in the back of the cooler that we have left over from last Christmas that are still good, like our Impervious, which is like a 12%.
This year was 12. The year before it was 17.
Yeah, we have a double train wreck that's 18.6% right now, and it's
big boy,
and it's not done.
Dick.
So it might get up to 19.3%, which is, and we want to barrel
almost
age it.
Asinine.
We want to barrel age it, so we're going to try to get it to 20. We're like, we might as well just try to get it to 20.
Yeah, right?
Whatever.
We're going to serve it 5 ounces at a time.
Yeah,
Can you even
because
call it a beer at that point?
it is a beer because we haven't distilled it.
So the hard part is when you get to that high, carbonation doesn't really exist in the beer because the alcohol comes
Too
down
much
so high.
alcohol. Carbonation doesn't like to
So
stick around.
this will be fun to see how people like it.
I'd nitro it if I was going to put it on, because the nitro helps to cream it. Like adds a creamy note to it, so it helps to. It works well with that heat from the bourbon or from whatever barrel we end up aging it in. Helps to like make it so that when you drink it, it doesn't taste like straight liquor, basically. Because I mean, it's 20%. It's as strong as some liquors are. So
the only other strong beer that I've heard of like that is Utopias by Sam Adams, which is a blend of like 4 different barrel aged beers, which is 23%, and it's literally like a cognac. They tell you to drink it like it's a sipping cognac. I mean, I don't know anyone that drinks cognac, so like, we would sip it,
yeah, you'd sip on it.
So for that 30-day long event, what does the planning look like going into that? Because that can't be easy.
We start usually some
a couple
beers
months before.
like some beers at August or September is when we start brewing the first one, and so
whatever we have left over. Basically, what we'll end up doing is we part them out where you basically each storefront. So there's 3 stores that would get it. Like 3 tap rooms that would get the beers. There's the Alma, there's the Summit, and the Mountain Town, and each of them would get 1/6 barrel, which are the skinny kegs basically that hold 5.5 gallons of beer. So so we'd line them up basically on a pallet, because I remember doing this last year. It's a lot where you have like 96 barrels of beer, and then you have to take them to all the different locations and make sure that they all have, this one goes on this day, this one goes on the next day, and whatever's left over you just keep until what he was saying, the tap takeover, and then we run through everything, like all the partials, everything that we didn't quite.
Not Mountain Town, St. John's.
St. John's, that's what I meant. St. John's,
Not Mountain St. John's.
Mountain Town is separate.
So while we're on that, do you guys kind of want to run through the difference between Summit, Mountain Town Brewing, and then the actual train station as well?
Summit Smokehouse is the tap room for Mountain Town Brewing Company.
Okay.
The old location, the tap room was literally called the tap room. It was the tap room at Mountain Town Brewing Company. So people will go, is this Summit or is this Mountain Town? And usually when I answer that question on the phone, I go, yes.
Yes.
Because it is Summit Smokehouse at Mountain Town Brewing Company.
Yeah.
And then Mountain Town Station is, the big difference is licensing. They're a brew pub and they have their own menu. It's like American gastropub style, I guess would be the best way to call it.
They have liquor. It's a more full
It's
bar.
brew pubs can make their own stuff, sell their own stuff to you and I through the tap lines, sitting down, or in like growlers. But then they can also sell other liquor, other wine, beer, stuff like that. Like if you just wanted to get like a long neck of Miller Lite, you could be able to go there and get that.
Gotcha.
And so here though, because we are a brew pub, or not brew pub, we are brewery, microbrewery, and taproom license, we can only sell what we make here in these walls.
Okay, so there's no like Miller Lite, Bud
Nope.
Light, anything
People
along
ask
those
for that.
lines?
We have Mountain Light,
Okay.
Mountain Light is our version of Miller Lite. Corn, a little bit of corn.
3.8%, really easy drinking. It's it's literally the lightest beer that we have for those that want maybe a better ingredient light beer.
Yeah, because it definitely does have it has more flavor. I would definitely say, having had both, but like same thing, very light, similar color, a very light yellow color. But yeah, like what are you saying? Very, very easy to drink, very light. 3.8% is very, very small beer.
Right.
It's actually lighter than Bud Light.
Yeah, it's lighter
All
than Bud
other
Light.
light beers are around 4.2, 4.3. So
Is that one of the most like popular one? Just because no,
actually,
It is.
you'd shake your head no, but it is.
I feel like it would be just because it's like recognizable and probably is like a
So-
familiar feeling.
Like when somebody asks for Miller Lite, you're like, got it, Mountain Light.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, or people come in, they're like, yeah, we're not really into craft beer, and I'm like, okay, yeah, craft brewery, Mountain Light, got it. And so, but the biggest thing is, it's the most popular stat wise because it's one of the just plainest beers that we have.
Right.
The next up is going to be our raspberry. I'm so used to saying raspberry. Our raspberry, our Trainwreck and Iron Horse, and then after that, I would say Peach Groot, and then totally forgot to talk about our Oktoberfest beer.
Oh yeah.
I would actually say, and this is also another big claim, we make one of the best
It's
Oktoberfest
a
beers in
good
the state.
Oktoberfest.
I would only put like Bell's and Founders above us. I'm done making claims for the rest. I'm done making claims for the rest of the day.
Coming at you.
Yeah, dude, they're gonna be coming here and we're like, we heard this asshole saying that you're,
You can't brew an Oktoberfest.
Larry Bell shows up. All right, need to hear this about this Oktoberfest.
But
They have a Junetoberfest back in the
Yeah.
barrel.
we have a
That's
30
just,
barrel of it right now.
yeah. So Oktoberfest is a Märzen, which means March beer.
Okay.
And so traditionally, they would start brewing at March because it'd take that long for it to be ready by September, and so which is actually when Oktoberfest is. But with new technology and modern brewing techniques, we can start brewing it right now and have it ready come Oktoberfest.
Yeah.
So we do a huge batch of it because we also distribute it, and it's very popular. And it's one of the beer styles too that can last like the whole year. So if you went in our cooler and grabbed an Oktoberfest from last year, it probably tastes just as good as it did when we bottled it. And so,
Yep. I concur.
I'm eyeing up this Wit Dream right here. What's the story on that wheat beer?
so we've had a few beers that just have pretty kitschy names. And Wit Dream is definitely one of them, but we needed a good. Yeah. Now you're like, oh,
Yeah, I like the softcore pour too.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
yeah.
We got one. They got one brewing called Straight Cash, homie.
Straight cash.
If we're going on trophy names real quick, one more was Half Chubba,
Half Chubba.
which
That was a great
we make a beer for. It's actually called Chubby Trout, and so this was like a session or a half version of that, so we called it Half Chubba.
Chubbawubba is the original one.
Oh yeah, Chubbawubba
Chubbawubba.
for is it for chubby trout? Yeah,
I think
for
it's
Cam.
For Cam, I think so.
And who comes up with all these names? Is it like a group
It's a
thing?
collaboration,
Collaboration.
but our head brewer Kyle is very good. Like him and I bounce off names with each other, and like I thought, like I'm like, oh, I'm gonna put the name. That's the name. This is the one that's gonna make him go like, damn. But then I say it, and he waits a second, and then he brings one back that's even better, and I'm just like,
Damn it.
Yeah.
hey, we'll go with that one.
Oh, that's awesome.
The name is important, though. I mean, like
It
that's
really is.
that's what gets people's attention when they see it on the board. They're like, "Oh, I have like softcore pour is a pretzel beer, kind of." We tried to get we made it with smoked mustard
And salt.
and salt, so it actually has a bready, pretzel-y kind of taste to it. Like,
It also had a multi-grain bill, which would add to that kind of breadiness.
yeah, wheat
So,
bread kind of flavor to it.
If we're talking about beer name, like another one that we have coming up right now is The Wife is Calling.
The Wife is
And
Calling.
it's a beer designed for like, shit, wife's calling, I need one more real quick.
Oh, you want
So
one real
it
quick.
brings a lot of flavor, but you can literally just do the little swirl thing and down
And you can down it quick. Yeah, it's a honey lager, so which it has a lot of interesting notes to it. Like we tasted it the other day, and it's turning it's 8 because we made that one months ago because honey lagers lagers in general do better when they age. They start
at least 6 weeks.
at least 6 weeks, so that they develop more of their flavor as they sit. A lot of the harshness, like initially with the yeast that the yeast brings to it, fades out and becomes more mellow over time.
Okay.
And especially the honey in it kind of becomes more prominent, but not. It's not as prominent as, say, like the Trainwreck is. Trainwreck has a lot of honey and maple flavor to it because we add a lot of honey and sugar to it to get it to that ABV. This is only like 4.3%, so it doesn't have as much sugar in it, but it definitely has a lot of interesting flavor.
So we were talking about names. I'm looking at the Mountain Town Brewing Company website right now. Your logos or your designs on your bottles are awesome as well. So who designs all those?
So those, I don't know who the original designer was, but a lot of our core lineup stuff have been those designs since we started distributing them.
Okay.
We don't have as much of a footprint as we used to. Our two biggest markets are up in the Traverse City and then the Metro Detroit area, because that's where a lot of CMU grads are from, and a lot of people still want to, grew up in college drinking this beer, and so they still want to drink it. I mean, I remember we were down at the Detroit Beer Festival back before COVID hit, and I think it was like the October before COVID hit, and everyone was like, "Man, Trainwreck! I drank that in college, and it still, or like raspberry, and it still tastes so good." And so, a lot of those have been in place for a long time. And it's funny that you bring that up because
I've seen that.
I mentioned yesterday that the Sacred Gruit. I'll go grab it real quick if you don't have it pulled up. That one's my favorite logo.
Okay.
It is a good logo.
I see
So
the
we have
steam
it on
engine.
tap too. We definitely should pour a drink from the
Oh yeah, let me go get that
for sure
I
because
see
like
the
it's
steam engine style and the train wreck on the
me
website
that
right
train
now.
wreck, please?
really cool. Like so, we just had a poster design. I gotta ask Kyle. I don't know what the name of that artist is.
The guy who did the Space
The guy who did the
Force.
Space Force poster that we have out there. That's like kind of like a play off of Star Wars: A New Hope,
Okay.
but with Luke Skywalker holding up his lightsaber. Except it's a brew paddle. It's actually we have it around here somewhere. It's a wooden brew paddle, but and it's Space Force for a New Hop is what we decided to call it instead. But yeah, like all of the images like are kind of stereotypical craft beer drinkers. Like there's a guy with a beard and like a bald hair and glasses, like staring up into the star or whatever, instead of but he did a really great job with the artwork. Like he spent a good week or two on that and sent 10 or 15 different this is how it's looking, like this and that, and Kyle was like, I mean, it looks great, like just keep doing your thing, like, and then he came out with this one and was like, I think it's about ready, and we're like, that looks perfect.
It's a good part being in a college town, especially coming from that college. You know at least a couple people who were artists or like were graphic designers or something like that. Because I got a couple of logos made up for some new shirts that I want to do. Because we have a lot of old logos, and I just kind of want to freshen it up a little bit. And I just hit up one of my friends who I knew did graphic design, and she got it all worked out, and I just got to put them on shirts now. So
Right. Yeah, I don't know anybody that can do that.
Yeah,
Sorry,
so,
Joe. Sorry.
say one of the servers up front, she went to school for graphic design. So Abby, yeah, she
Oh, nice.
is pretty good too.
So when you guys get a new beer, let's say you brew it, or when you get a new beer, do you guys always distribute them, or is it only like certain ones that you choose to distribute?
It depends on what the distributors want. So like beers that we've been distributing, how you end up getting a distributor's attention is that usually you send them samples, and then they taste it and they decide that it's interesting though. Like so the Sacred Groot is what they're tasting right now with the artwork there.
Yeah.
It's got a lot of
this on my wall.
spice flavors.
You can take that if you want.
Yeah, take it. We have tons. We have tons of it.
All right.
4-pack beer, but it's very different. Like
It's definitely we brew a lot of unique things. We try to do traditional styles, but in unique ways, and that is, I would say, whenever people come here and like I can't really find a beer that's matching what they want, I will just go, you know what?
try this.
Just trust me on this. And they try it and they're like, yeah, what is that? And I try to explain it, and that's what I tell them. I'm like, it's the least beer tasting beer you've ever had.
No, I 100% agree with that. And when I go to a new brewery, I always like asking, whoever's in the front, whoever's pouring the beers, like, what's your favorite? Because they know, they've been around them, they've tried 100 different ones. So
The one thing that I do is whenever I go to a new brewery, I try to see what is the most traditional brew that they have on.
yep.
And I have that. And if they did it well, then they're more than likely a competent brewery, because if you can make like a good Pilsner, because you can't hide anything in a Pilsner, because it's just so light and so like crisp. If you have any off flavors, you'd be like, it's cardboard or something like that. And like anyone can do a triple IPA with cotton candy and Rice Krispie treat in the mash, and then double, triple dry hop, which I love. I drink those every day, but at the same time, there's really is something about a brewery that can make like a nice bock.
Yeah.
Or like can just nail the shit out of a porter.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, so it's like you go to a new restaurant or like a new. My biggest thing too is breakfast places. They can make a good eggs and bacon. They're probably a good place to go to, because if they can do the simple things really well, they can probably do all the new things good too.
All about fundamentals.
Yeah,
I was gonna say I should do
exactly.
that, because sometimes I go to a new breakfast place and be like, give me your best eggs Benedict, and then you try it, you're like, this is shit.
Exactly.
If I just tried the eggs and bacon first,
Yeah.
if that was good, then work my way up a little bit.
Work with it.
Yeah, I was gonna say also the degree for error for like eggs and bacon, you can still recover that and have a decent meal, but if they're like upper echelon.
Yeah,
Yeah, you know if they're
exactly.
good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's like here, man. Like people are like, man, like, can I get this? But like, can I change it up? I'm like, honestly, you should, like, in my personal opinion, just try it how it is.
Yeah.
Like some people want to like get our Philly pit sandwich with chicken, which I do love, but I'm like, honestly, there's something beautiful about the prime rib and everything. Because we changed it to shaved prime rib, and that thing is.
It was made. Well, it was made for that. It was made like they designed it like that. Like trust the chef.
It was
like
a French,
trust the guy who
French
made
dip
it.
sandwich that they tried putting the smokehouse twist on by putting it with brisket instead of prime rib, like a traditional French dip. So I changed it to prime rib just because it's easy to smoke, and it's still smoked, so it has that smokehouse vibe to it, and it doesn't take long. And then chill it in the walk in overnight, and slice it the next day, and you get these beautiful deli slices that, and the way we make it still has that mid-rare red color in, so when you cut the sandwich in half, it just looks really good too.
Might have to try it.
Yeah, right. Like we start talking about it, and you're like,
Yeah, the prime rib's fantastic.
So I'm looking at this Sacred Brew Ale. So it has rosemary, myrtle, and yarrow.
Oh, so
what are those ingredients? I know what rosemary is. I've never heard of the other two.
it might be, we might be doing it slightly different than when we made that.
Okay.
And the hard issue is we just have so much of those in stock that, and so, but the hardest part actually with brewing that beer is finding the ingredients, because we can find rosemary, but we can't find marsh rosemary. We can find Gale, but sweet Gale, you know.
Okay.
We also started using yarrow, because yarrow is a little bit easier to find, because yarrow is like everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the only thing that we can find plentifully.
Is yarrow like a grain?
It's a root.
It's a root.
Yep.
Okay.
So like when
Mostly
they were
roots and spices.
yeah, when they were making that, it was like you'd literally go to the monastery or whatever. Yeah, you'd go to
Yeah,
the monastery and be like,
Yeah, but
look at what herbs, roots, and spices they had. And if you were brewing on your own, which at that time, if you did, you had some money, because that, like, if you could have that much water, I mean, that's also why brewing became a thing, was to help clean water,
Yeah.
because fermentation and heat kills, you know, bad things.
save it.
Sprint support.
Save it.
That was amazing.
Dang it,
If-
Marissa.
If anything like that happens, our producers, he'll cut all that out. So don't
Yes,
worry.
well,
Top 10
It
players.
was. It was.
I was about to say, I just broke a land speed record for a 300-pound man.
435. Holy shit.
Get this guy to the lead.
Oh gosh.
So after a couple of sips of the brew, what are you thinking? It's
I
unlike
like
anything
it.
I've had. So
Yeah. Like,
I really
what
don't know how to
flavors are
describe
you
it.
picking up? What flavors? Because to me, it has kind of like a spiced honey kind of flavor to it. Like, it's got
Yeah.
that kind of sweetness to it, but it's almost like a nectar sweetness.
You can when you sip it slow, you can taste the spice
Mhm.
very faintly. I've never had anything like it. I can't really compare
See,
it to anything.
The thing
but-
that I think confuses most people is actually, and this is going to sound weird, is the texture.
Yeah. Very.
The texture of the liquid.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's a soft beer.
Yeah, it's
Like, when you drink it, like, there's some beers when it hits your mouth, you're like, that was kind of rough. Like, it was a lot of flavors going on, and you could feel each one on your tongue. But with that, it's pillowy as it goes down, but you get every flavor at the same time.
It reminds me similar to like a sparkling cider you have as like a
Yeah,
child.
yeah.
Like it has like I don't know. It's kind of like nostalgic in that way. It's easy to go down.
No,
It's
I know
just
what
like-
you're talking about. Yeah.
That's what it reminds me.
he still drinks hard cider, or he still drinks sparkling cider.
Whoa,
Sparkling cider.
sit down, guys.
My personal
It's heavy.
favorite is I've had a lot of beers with rosemary in it.
Okay.
And I think rosemary is really versatile in brewing, just because you can use it in combination with like IPAs, which I've had before, and the spice with the bitterness really works well. But then you can use a different kind of rosemary in this, and it adds a lot of different texture, and not only texture but depth.
It's also extremely light. That was one of the
Yeah.
first things I noticed.
Yep. We technically call it a pale ale. Pale ales are like mini IPAs. So this was like, we literally were meaning pale ale as in the color.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or SRM if you want to get real nerdy about it. But
Yeah, I saw pale ale on here and I was kind of confused just because like I tried it and I was like, oh, it doesn't really resemble
yeah,
pale ale.
no,
the
but we
traditional
were literally
terms.
meaning just
the opacity,
color.
yeah,
Yep,
the way
the
it's
color. The color.
It's gold. It's a golden color.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yep, a light gold. So I kind of want to pour some samples of that peppercorn.
The straight cash
The
homie.
straight
I had it
cash, homie.
yesterday, yeah.
It's so it's got peppercorn and peach.
Okay, and what is that called?
Straight
Called
cash.
Straight cash, homie.
Okay, that's a straight cash on me.
It's not on yet, but
It's not on yet, but it's in
Also,
the.
we get a
carved
sneak
it.
preview.
If you want,
you
yeah.
got the testers.
I was like, do we got?
Why don't we go get the testers?
Like, we're still a few hours out from Prime, but like,
Yeah. They threw Prime on like 13 minutes ago.
yeah, we're a few hours out. It's real Prime right now.
So you guys mentioned what's the name of the owner again?
Jim Holton.
So you mentioned Jim Holton owned a few other businesses. Is he pretty known in the area? Does he
Yeah.
in this industry?
So not only is Jim a restaurateur, but he is a CMU graduate.
Okay.
And then on top of that, he's kind of I believe he's from Pinconning.
Okay.
Pinconning, and then he was also the mayor of Mount Pleasant for a term, I believe.
Yep.
And
Okay.
so
That is true.
he's been in the community. I mean, Mountain Town Station opened in 1996. And so he did that pretty much straight out of college.
Okay.
So he's been doing it he's been a member of the community for a long time.
And that was the old train station, right?
Yep,
in Mount
that
Pleasant?
was the old
Yep.
train station.
Yeah.
Yep. And even if like you go there now and sit on the back patio, you can literally see the back patio is the old landing station for the train station.
That's awesome.
And so, like that railroad still is used on a daily basis, so you could be eating out back and see a freighter come through, a freight train come through.
Yeah.
Obviously slow, but
And then
don't
they
want
got
a freighter coming through at cruising speed, trying to eat the sandwich.
a bullet train. Then they got a Camille's Prime. It's a Prime restaurant right next door, connected to it. It's kind of like an addition to Mountain Town Station, but
Okay.
that's like your more fine dining, and like you got to have a reservation to have a spot there, pretty much.
Prime,
So,
Prime Steakhouse, like seafood restaurant.
yeah,
Straight cash, homie.
Yeah, actually,
I haven't tried this.
one of my friends mentioned going there the other day. So,
Camille's?
yep.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Yeah. I've had brunch there, not dinner, but their brunch is
Their brunch is
amazing.
out of like all their food is outstanding. Like
They make
in
chicken
every
and waffles exquisite.
and
Like
every-
that's the only word to describe.
like form of the word outstanding is what their food is.
Okay.
I've never like I only trust. I'm my best friend Bobby, our best friend Bobby. He only trusts like 3 people to make food, make red meat. I'm kind of the same way, and 2 of the people work in the back at Camille's.
Okay.
And so, like I've seen them take, like Kyle, the head chef. He literally took like a pretty, I won't say cheap, because it's not cheap, but took like a tenderloin.
It was the Merlot on the back of a ribeye. So,
Yeah,
pretty much a
and
tenderloin.
I gummed it. You didn't even have to chew it. I was like, falling apart. I'm like, this is beef? I'm like, what the hell?
How did
What
you
is
do
going on? What'd you do to this? Did you beat it up beforehand?
But yeah, so
I love the straight cash.
Yeah.
homie.
Yeah, the straight
I
cash
like it.
homie is it's
On
also
the
an
nose.
interesting flavor, but
on the nose, because
Yeah.
like that's the first thing I always do is give it a nice smell, and it's got you can smell. It's like a saison. Almost.
It is. No, it is.
It is. I mean, it has that scent, and then the pepper, but a peppery kind of saison kind of scent smell to it.
it reminds me of being like in the greenhouse back on the farm.
Yeah.
It's really weird.
So,
Like,
that's exactly right, because saisons were originally farmhouse style ales.
I got it.
And, yeah, so look at you already knowing shit about beer you probably didn't think you knew about just by knowing things.
Yeah.
No, but so like it's a Belgian yeast strain, and it was traditionally brewed in the farmhouses, and we're gonna pick up
Peppercorn.
all the different microbes in the air and affect how the beer that like when people say that they can taste the air in the beer, that's what they mean. Like you have some farmhouse ales that you're literally like, okay, there's like a bale of hay right next to where this was brewed because I can taste that.
yep.
But like some people think that's bad, but I personally think it's cool because I'm like, I'm tasting a part of Belgium right now, and
Yeah.
I'm in Mount Pleasant, Michigan.
Yep.
Peppercorn and peach.
Insanely good.
So
and,
good.
and I personally hate this style. I will go down saying I hate this style.
Full of hot takes today.
Dude, I forgot you don't know me.
But I mean, it's one of those things where, like, I'm not a huge fan of saisons either, or like the Wit Dream isn't really my favorite either. But like, this is a very easy to drink beer. Like,
And
it's
the
savory.
banana.
Yeah.
Banana, I hate banana in beer. But the amount of banana on this beer is so
perfect.
Perfect.
It's like
I kind of want to make this, like, this is going to be an abomination of beer. Make this a little bit with some grape juice.
it'd be great.
PB&J Saison.
Yep. Honestly, though, like it's just that it's such weird flavors. Like thinking like, oh yeah,
This
let's.
beer's going to sell so fast.
Yeah, it's gonna.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's the thing.
Sell
Is that whenever
so
you make
fast.
something that's really, really good, it's great. But it's also
Right.
like it's not. We're not like you might as well. You have to enjoy it while you can because it's not going to be around. Like in Alma, they have their Dreamsicle, which is a cream ale with brewed with orange peel, basically. So it's like a creamsicle essentially, but we call it Dreamsicle. But it's very, very tasty, very easy to drink. Alma got 4 barrels of it, and we got like a half a barrel and like a 10-gallon thing.
I watched a guy who had never had craft beer before in his life blue screen when he had the dreamsicle, because he literally grabbed his buddy by the shirt and he was like, "This tastes like a creamsicle, man, an orange one." And I was like, "That's what we were going for. That's literally what we were going for." And he was just like, "Oh shit, man, this is amazing." And he had like 2 more, and he was like, and I kind of want to be like, "This is what you're kind of missing out on all those years." But,
Yeah, that, because I mean,
that's the cool thing about craft beer is
making a really cool beer like that.
one of our more popular ones is Juice Box.
Mm-hmm.
Which Juice Box is actually a wine and cider mix
For all ages.
For all,
almost. It's 7%.
that's up there.
So 14 plus.
And so like that literally tastes like a Welch's Juice Box with a slight little
With a
bite of
little
alcohol
light
at the
alcohol.
end. Because it is a 7% cider. And so you get some people that come in and they're like, I don't really like cider. And then they have it and they're just like,
This is amazing.
Okay.
I could have 2 of these. I could have 2 more.
spiked Welch's.
yeah, that's kind of like what we just, because we actually brew that for somebody. And so we're a large contract brewer. So people either come to us. I mean, people always, with contract brewing, people will come to us to make a beer. Sometimes they have a recipe and they just want to use our labor and equipment. Other times people come to us with just like, hey, we got this idea. Let's start
How would you
brainstorming.
do it? Yeah.
And so we do that for a lot of people, like the Moose New Country Ale, the Buck Snort. If you go down in Detroit, and the other big one that I know of is we make a beer, or at least bottle of beer for the Henry Ford Museum called the Old Liz.
Old Liz.
And so it's one of our amber ales. And so, yeah.
So if I wanted to make my own beer, how much would it cost for me to come to you and have that beer made?
It
Depends on how much you want.
Depends on how much. Like I know
Let's
we
say a
had
barrel.
1 barrel. How much?
I would say we probably start at a 3 barrel.
We'd probably charge you more for the labor for that than actually making the beer.
$1,000 probably,
Yeah.
or so.
So is
For
it
a-
pretty like? I don't cut you
Oh no,
off.
it's the 3 barrel system is because I mean we have the systems that we have. We have a 2 barrel. We have a 2 barrel fermenter. Like this system that we have here is the smallest that we have. It's our 5 barrel system. But you can tailor a recipe. Obviously, you add less grain, you add less water to make it a 2 or 3 barrel system, depending on what tank we're going to put it in. Like if we want to make a beer, like we just put that barrel that's up on the top, actually top right.
Tall, Dark, and Rich?
Tall, Dark, and Rich, which is basically double. It's kind of the Impervious that we normally made. It was the brewer Nate Callery.
It's a porter though.
It is a porter, but he based the grain bill off of our Impervious that we do for Christmas, basically. But he wanted to make it, but he boiled it for twice as long. So when you boil obviously, when you're boiling the beer, you're losing some volume because you're losing water. So by boiling it for twice as long, he cut the volume from like 4 barrels down to like 2.5 or so. So like that was the one that was I think like 16%. Like it was a very, very strong, tall, dark, and rich. Like it's a very, very thick, dark porter that's also very high ABV, and that's what we are barrel aging. It's a 1792 barrel, which I'm not too. That's all I know about the barrel. I'm not sure what it is exactly. It's whiskey.
1792 is.
If it's a whiskey or not.
I think it's a bourbon. I want to say their label says Larceny Bourbon.
Larceny
whatever
Bourbon.
the hell that is.
But forget where I was going. But like that, they put that in a 2 barrel fermenter. So like you could make probably about that is about the smallest you could make.
Kentucky straight bourbon.
Okay.
So is that something a lot of other breweries do? Is being able to like be like, hey, I want this beer, and then they do that for you?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
One of the biggest is actually. No, I don't want to actually say it because it's a large brewery down about an hour south of us, but it's not anything illegal by any means because they're not claiming it's theirs.
Mm-hmm.
It's just they're using our equipment to brew it.
Mm-hmm.
Another large one in the U.S. is called Uinta. It's they're called Gypsy Brewers, even though I know Gypsy's not a very TC term.
Yeah.
But that's what the brewing term is called.
We'll
And
just
so-
bleep that out, and the audience can leave that term up to the imagination.
But so they literally go around to different breweries and will use their equipment to brew their beer on it. And so mainly they're far more larger scale than we are, and so they use like some more just mass production facilities. But we are set up for both small batch and mass production.
Okay.
So like we can do both. Like we did one of our more popular beers that we ever had in the last couple of years here was called Best Day Ever, which we actually did we had a couple come in and they both ladies wanted to help brew the beer and have the beer for their wedding. And so like they came in, they helped mash in, they helped mash out, they helped transfer, then they kegged it and had it at their wedding. And so then we had everything left over that they don't want. Because like, say like someone comes in, they're like, hey, I want 11 and a half barrels of this beer. And it's like, well, we'll brew a 15 and give you what you want, and then
We'll use the rest.
We'll use the rest.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so
It's not really feasible for us to. It's like if you want like a barrel and a half of it, it's like we'll brew a 3-barrel batch. We'll give you a barrel and a half of it, and then we'll keep the rest, and then we'll sell it at the bar, or we'll call it a different name, or maybe we'll add a juice to it. And
like
make it
obviously,
different,
if you want that beer to be yours, we'll call it something else, or affect it in some way so that at the base it's still the same beer, but we're not selling the exact same product.
Yeah, we're not selling your beer. We're selling this beer instead. It has a different name, but it's the same beer, but it's a different version. It's a different. It's sold here versus yours, which you took out of the brewery, and now that's yours, basically.
That's pretty unique. I don't think I've ever heard of that, of somebody taking like
There's a because you can
privately
do that.
funded beer and then distributing it to the public.
Yep, you could definitely do that for sure. That's not something
That's
that's a
sweet.
problem. Like,
So you got to be a regular here in order to get all the the secret recipes.
well, I mean, you could always ask about it. Like,
Yeah, I mean,
you come in and ask.
we're not very pretentious about our beer. We make beer for people who like beer. And so, like, if you want to come in, like, we have some people come in and they're like, hey, can I get a 6-barrel of this beer in your Brewers Reserve list? And I'm like, well, that was like a small batch, but if we brew it again, give me your information, we'll give you a call if you're still interested.
Yeah, we'll set aside a 1/6 of a barrel for you so that you can come in and
like,
pick it up.
the past week and a half, I've sold like two full kegs of beer. Just because people want to know that they can come in and get some beers right away. Other beers might take a week. It's not that big of a deal.
Moose, Mountain Light, like people who have home kegerators and stuff like that, if they want to just have it on tap at home and just be able to pour themselves one. It's also a lot better than taking a growler home to be able to just have it fresh on tap at home when you pour it, and then it's like foamed, it's carbonated correctly. Once you put it in a glass container and put a cap on it, the first time you open that beer, you have to basically finish it, because if you cap it again, then it's going to get oxidized and it's not going to be carbonated. It's going to be flat. And beer, it's like what we were saying with the food. Like our beer is kind of designed to be drank at a certain carbonation level. Like if it's not carbed right, it's not going to taste very good, because it's not. Trainwreck is not meant to be drank flat. It's meant to be drank with carbonation in it, so that it helps with the flavor.
That's why every can of beer always says drink fresh.
Mm-hmm.
So do you guys have like a huge recipe book for everything?
Filing cabinet.
Filing cabinet has all.
That has every single recipe we've ever made.
So even if you brew it one time for a random person, is it in there?
It's in there.
Okay, wow. So that thing is.
Yep.
literally full.
one of our very fine establishments in Mount Pleasant, known as the Bird Bar American Grill, we made a beer. Shout out Bird, let's go. See you later after tonight. They're after work today and getting a burger.
Yeah.
But they came to us and they wanted to make a New England IPA. And that was when New England's were kind of gaining steam. M43 wasn't even a thing at that time. This might have been 2011, 2012. And so we made it for them. And then, it sold pretty well, but then they didn't want to make another one. But then fast forward to 2018, we're designing a new New England IPA that I was helping design. And we based it off of the Bird beer. beer at the time that was 4 years old, or 6 years old.
6 years old.
Yeah.
So you can reusing. Well, it's like, and it's a recipe. You know, it's like you're cooking with beer. So the
So
grains
you make
that you
eggs the
have,
same way you did when you were 12?
It's like probably not. You make it mostly the same way, but you're adding different flavor. Like
Well,
you might add
what I'm
pepper,
saying, like,
or
you still make eggs the same way.
it's fundamentally the same way. It's just that you might change out an ingredient here or there and see how it affects the flavor. Or
Have a little better pan.
yeah,
Yeah.
well, that too. Having better different
You
equipment.
move from Teflon to cast iron.
Yeah,
That's how
exactly.
it
There
is.
we go. We're grown-ups now. We use cast iron.
Yeah, but I mean, like, there's lots of different, like with the tall, dark, and rich. I know that Nate was saying he would, like, if he would brew it again, he'd change the recipe. He'd be like, I'd put a little bit more chocolate malt in. I'd take some of this out. I'd add more dextrin.
That's
It's good.
That's the cool thing about making your own things is you can change it how you want. Like, that's the weird thing that, like, some people say is they come here often and they don't taste any difference in the brisket, but then we get some people that came in like last year and then have brisket this year and they're like, whoa. It's like, yeah, that's the cool thing is like we can have some liberty with how our product goes out.
So with time, if you guys for running over on time, just
Oh no, we're good. We still got about 20 to 25 minutes.
I might have to leave soon just because I got work in a little bit.
Okay, I have a few like
Yeah,
few
let's
more
get
good
through some
ones I have to
questions.
ask, and
Okay.
then
No,
you're good.
All right, but
So-
real quick, this extension cord is not doing it for me.
Oh, is your battery low?
Yeah, we're big low.
Okay.
I'm not getting a charge on this. Is that outlet dead or fried?
Is it on?
I could
plug
also.
into the
Actually,
Yeah, I have like 2 or 3 good ones and then you're good.
Let me
Yeah,
go to the
very
restroom
good. Just
real
wanted to check in because I know we've been almost
Well,
an hour. So.
yeah, usually we try.
Yeah.
Usually we keep it around 1
thank you.
hour. I told Joey we'd be there at 3, so
Oh, you're doing Joey's today too?
yeah.
Dude, that's sick. I'm stoked.
I had to get
Guilty
2. I had to get
versus
2
one
for a 2.5 hour drive.
Yeah,
at
that's
least.
true.
I was trying to get like 3 or 4. I
Is
didn't
it
know.
still
Like,
really only 2.5 from Toledo?
Yeah.
well, like it took me like 220. Well, 240 with a stop.
Once you get on 127, you're just flying.
Oh yeah, dude. I was going fast.
legal
Don't-
fast, but
Speed.
Yeah, I'm gonna switch to some of like the entrepreneur, like, what's one thing you wish you had known? What do you like, recommend for somebody starting in the industry, stuff like that.
Okay, that's a good question.
I don't want to fire off some crazy ones. Not really. Just like what's a hangover recipe? What's the rest of the things that we're done?
We got probably
I got
good like
time.
6.
Just got some funny ones.
Prime comes
And
off
then
at 4.
So we're going to Joey's and then we're coming back here for dinner. By the way.
Yeah,
fuck yeah.
it's a great
Oh,
idea.
we got our prime rib after 4.
Prime
and
rib.
We got
You gotta
we
get
got
that
spicy
prime
chicken
rib.
sandwich and shrimp appetizer on special.
Oh, we'll
So
get
yeah.
probably 2 or 3 things for
Oh, yeah.
already.
I'll make sure they take care of you. I'll make a manager meal.
Yes.
You need to pay for it.
All right. Sorry, Dan. When you're editing this, we just took a
Hey,
A little, yeah.
a little hype.
Dan will figure it out.
What timestamp are you on for the recording?
Talk to your editor. in the future.
104.
No,
Talk to your
yeah.
editor in the future
Yeah,
right
I'm
now.
going
Sometimes if we do something like this, we'll be like, hey, Dan,
Doing
from like,
great, Dad.
sometimes we'll be like, hey, Dan, from 58 to 103, you can just like delete.
Just
Cut out all that part.
That's where we all went on a weird tangent
Hey,
about
don't
Ryan
forget
Reynolds.
the gypsy thing. This is your reminder. We don't want to get canceled. We're doing pretty good.
We do, yeah. That.
So what would Nomad Brewing? Is that what that would be known as now?
I would.
He can alter your
Nomad
voice to
seems
say
like a
anything.
technical
So like,
term.
that's why we try not to be too mean to him.
Oh, after like 70 episodes, dude, he could stitch anything.
He can
together.
stitch anything like together
Anything
that he
he
wanted
wanted.
to. So like,
Well,
this
in
isn't.
that case, Dan.
So what's one thing you guys wish you'd have known coming into the food and beverage industry that you know now?
So this isn't my first time in the food and bev. I was in a kitchen in Leo's, Coney Island when I was in the summer between my freshman and sophomore year of college, and so it wasn't anything like new. I guess the one thing that I wish I was better prepared for, at least re-entering it, was just time on feet. I literally came from a clerking job at a law office where I was sitting 6 of the 8 hours that I was working, And so going from being sedentary for that long every day, 5 days a week, to then working. I couldn't get that one. I'm sorry.
You're good.
But then being on feet, during graduation weekend, when my whole job was taking food from kitchen to table and back. I had my phone in my pocket, and I walked 29 miles Thursday through Sunday in this restaurant.
It's a lot.
Because I sure as shit wasn't moving outside of here.
Yeah.
So I walked to my car, walked home, walked into my house, and then didn't move inside my house. And so that was the one thing that I personally was like, oh.
So you're going to be active.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good brewing segue too, because I definitely have gotten a lot stronger since I've been working in the brewery for 2.5 years.
No, seriously, you can functional size.
Between the brisket and lifting and whatnot.
Brisket,
Occupational strength.
Yeah. Now I know why dads are so damn strong because they go to work every day. Yesterday we were busy, at a keg blow, and I call it mama bearing because I love the stories of hearing this soccer mom that deadlifts a car off of a kid, and they just fight. It's a real scientific thing. There's some women that have been shown to gain superhuman strength from their mother instinct.
Motherly instinct.
God, this turned into a Joe Rogan podcast.
Motherly instincts.
And so yesterday I had to get a full half barrel over 3 kegs into the corner, and I just did the whole up to the hips, over on the knee and down, in one fluid motion. And I'm like, I haven't worked out in 4 months. How the hell did I just do that? And a full half barrel is over 100 pounds.
It's 167 pounds.
There you go.
If it's steel, if it's plastic,
No,
that's
it's
158 pounds then.
I tossed around a 158-pound person in
Weighs
the
more
form
than
of
me.
liquid yesterday.
It's I don't even weigh
And the liquid's
158
hard because
pounds.
it goes, back and forth.
Yeah, and so
Full kegs aren't too bad just because
Yeah. Full.
there's not a whole lot of empty space in there, but it does do some. It does.
And
it
then,
does want to move.
taking all the briskets out of the friggin' smoker.
50 pound rack of meat. Aaron,
God,
completely oblivious to the sign that's on the door.
Incredible. I wish I did a video podcast.
I know.
It's literally just clips of him.
Usually our photographer comes with us everywhere, but he did have 5 hours today to drive back and forth.
You do the old 80s or the old Mortal Kombat where you just see me over there.
Get over here. Get over.
That's funny. So where were we at?
Yeah, where were we at with it? We did
Sorry, I know you're
occupational things you wish you would
One
know.
thing you wish you had.
We're talking about motherly instincts. And
Yeah, motherly instinct.
Oh, and how they apply to brewing. So when you gotta mash out a full, 15 barrel batch of train wreck, because you gotta scoop out
All the grain,
all
900
that
pounds of grain.
grain.
900 pounds
It's-
of grain.
Yeah.
And then
And
if
you
you're
do
making,
it with the flat shovel.
Jesus Christ.
well, I mean, we have a long pole. We have a pole
Oh, yeah,
that's
that's true.
flat on the end.
Yeah.
So usually we have one guy at the front, pulling it out, and then the other guy with the shovel, kicking it towards the center for the guy to pull out, basically. But you're still.
So you're doing this with the shovel from up top, and then you're doing that from below.
But I mean, it's hot. So
on top of that.
the inside of the mash tun where you originally, it's 160 degree. 150 to 160 degrees is how hot the water gets, but that grain is still retaining most of that moisture. So you put 900 pounds of dry grain in, but when it's all saturated with water, it's more like 1,400 pounds that you're pulling out, and that's 2 batches that you have to load into. We have a big bin basically that we pour it into, and then a local farmer comes and gets
we
the grain.
use that.
And we use that forklift for that to take it out. But basically, then just dumping it into a big into a trailer that a local farmer takes and repurposes for animal feed. Basically, like the spent grain that we go through, so we don't throw it out. It doesn't go to waste unless it's been sitting outside for too long and it gets like hot, and he doesn't have a chance to come in and pick it up every day. Then he'll just dump it basically and use it for he'll mulch it basically, but it never goes to waste.
Purely organic matter too. So
Yeah.
And then when we do briskets, that's like each brisket's 10 pounds. Yeah, and so we put 15 briskets on. You gotta swing. I mean, swinging 10 pounds repetitively
over and over again.
Yeah,
I mean,
like you're gonna build some
case of
obliques,
brisket
homie.
weighs at least
Your trunk
60 to
is
70
strong.
pounds.
No wonder why you're so good at golf. You got that trunk.
I've seen him in golf. I don't know who.
Oh,
if he's
I
with the
watched
same
him.
person.
I
there's no
watched
hit mobility, but there's accuracy.
I watched him pull
Accuracy.
out from 155 yards out, bending around the tree. I've never. You think I'm fast there? I've never ran a faster 40 in my life. After he did that, because we just started like doing that weird golf like high step because we didn't want to spill our beers.
So I'm the chipping king in golf for sure. I'll take that to my grave. But power, I ain't got the power, but I got
That's
the
me.
accuracy.
We played best ball, and dude, we'd be good in a scramble.
What a scramble.
Really would.
With my drive and your short game, unstoppable, man.
Yeah, what about you?
One thing I would say to anyone, like I wish I knew before I came here, just how dedicated I knew I had to be, because I came into this kitchen manager job not really having any managing experience at all. So, I mean, I'm learning something new every day. I was lucky enough to have two chefs that trained me while I was starting out, and now I have employees. Everything's steady sailing back there, but really you just got to be dedicated. And if you don't like doing what you do, you're not gonna like it. But
Yeah.
I love food. I like working in a local restaurant, so I have the ability and the freedom to do specials when I want to do specials. I have the ability to change recipes if I don't think it's good or not. Like,
Right.
I have the ability to make this place what it should be and kind of like leave a piece of myself here. And all my cooks get input too. Like, we have a shrimp special going on that one of my cooks just entirely came up with, and I thought it was a good idea. They're using one of the honey sriracha drizzles that me and my partner Bobby made, and
Honey sriracha shrimp.
yeah, it's nice. We got a lot of good stuff going on back here, and I really just like the freedom of being able to be back there, but you just got to be able to be dedicated.
Great advice.
Can't wait to come back and eat. All right, well, I got a couple off topic and just like goofy questions. So, first one though, I mean, you guys are doing a little bit of research and development late into the night. Next day, what's the hangover recipe?
Hangover for me is always eggs, but it's just eggs in a
Any
pan.
particular way?
I mean, I like making mine over medium personally.
Okay.
Well, I'd say over easy. I like a little like
Dippy yolk.
yeah. I like the yolks to be a little liquidy, but not too much where they spill out. Like where they're still orange but soft, basically.
Okay.
3 of them in a pan, olive oil, pepper on top. Sometimes I put ketchup and mustard on the side too.
Yo, mustard. Get the fuck out of here.
That's a hot
Egg,
take.
mustard and eggs is
That's a hot take.
It's gonna be the most.
Let me guess, you put
controversial
mustard on
one.
watermelon too, you psychopath.
no. That
Hot
doesn't.
sauce and like ketchup, I can understand. Mustard, that's out there.
Mustard is
So-
good on eggs, but I like mustard too.
I'll give it a go.
That's some depression ass shit right there. We didn't have anything, but we had mustard and eggs.
I'd eat the shit out of mustard and
It's
eggs.
the same color. No.
What's
Okay.
yolk? What's mustard?
I mean, it's all the same
It's the
thing.
same. I mean,
You
okay.
mix it all together.
In that case, if you really mix it up, I can see how the mustard works with the yolk.
See, now when I cook
but
it-
when I was kind of envisioning, because when I was a kid, I used to do scrambled eggs and ketchup.
Yep.
So I was envisioning you just going scrambled eggs.
If I scrambled
close.
the eggs and
Is
then I added
mustard or
mustard
deviled eggs?
to the scrambled eggs
Yeah,
while I was
yeah,
scrambling
yeah.
while they were cooking, I'd probably do
There
that.
might just be mustard
That could be good.
seed though. But
Or brown mustard. Yeah,
mine's-
just yellow mustard.
I go. The food is super millennial with the whole avo toast, but it's like
toast.
a full avocado on a piece of bread, and then I do eggs and bacon on top of it too.
Oh, that sounds amazing.
With about a 0.7 gram joint.
Yeah. It's legal in the
Never 0.8 or 0.6,
0.7
0.7.
on the
Well,
dot.
because
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that's like the perfect amount. Like
Of course.
I've been doing it for a long time, so it's one of those things where it's like maybe one's a little too much. I got to put it down. And under that's just gonna piss me off because it's not enough. But 0.7s, that 3 bears bed right there, man.
Yeah, that's a sweet spot right there.
Yeah,
It's 0.7.
Yeah,
Three
I concur
beers.
with that. Nice smoke after, morning after helps deal with that.
We're in a legal state, so we can.
That's a legal state.
Yeah,
so
that
it's
is
fine.
true. We're in Michigan for everybody who didn't know.
If I can remember, before I go to bed, I try and chug a
A lot of
bottle
water.
of cold water before I go to
Yeah.
bed.
Oh, and
Lots of
Pedialytes.
Pedialyte.
I actually, it was really funny. They came out with a new Pedialyte it's geared for adults, and it's like to rehydrate better during your activity. And it was like, just say when you're hungover as shit the next morning, grabbing the toilet.
Just be honest.
Yeah, no, like you know who you're targeting. Just point it point it out. Yeah,
Just
stop
be
beating around the
honest.
bush.
Yeah, be honest with it. You know.
Yeah, nobody's ever run like a half marathon and said like I need a Pedialyte.
No, you see people running after they're done running half marathons, and
Do you know about people
okay,
that run half marathons? Okay, one guy editing this podcast.
Sure.
If he wasn't crazy enough. Yeah, if he wasn't.
there's just a really funny joke, or I thought it was really funny. It was a comedian that was like, I don't get why people put 13.6. You're bragging about being good at half of something. He's gonna just edit everything out that I said from here on out.
No,
but everyone after
doubt.
marathons has like a banana and a beer in their hand.
Yeah.
Also because beer just sounds really good,
Good.
after running 13. After a mile, after half
Well,
a
that
mile,
crisp
beer
is-
sounds good. I'm gonna
After
walk
running
up,
from that door, you
I'm gonna walk up to the front and be like, damn, a beer
I need
sounds
another
really
beer.
good right now.
I'm gonna have another beer after this.
I'm gonna have to.
You're like, I gotta go to work.
Yeah. Fellas, do you have any more questions for me?
Nope.
All right, last question.
Or last
Okay.
question.
Do you have any good paranormal or ghost stories?
Here. That's serious. So, actually, at the old place.
Happened yesterday, actually.
Oh, yeah.
When those
So,
kegs clinked. No, the growlers clinked.
what?
Literally, when those guys were at the end of the bar yesterday, no one walked around the corner. I came back here to see if anyone was back here. The kegs just clinked. Not
The
kegs,
growlers?
The growlers on
The growlers that were hanging on the wall just
like a huge gust of wind or someone brushed them as
Yeah.
they walked by.
So-
no one was.
So then the other weird thing too was we're listening to a death metal song and there's a really cool breakdown and the one light started flickering to the breakdown.
Oh,
That one
That was
like
cool.
last night too.
No, yeah, dude. Last night was a high paranormal night. No, but
It's weird.
my story is at the old place. At the old place, the employee bathrooms were on top of a story and a half flight of stairs. So there's a shit ton of stairs leading up to this. It was like a loft area. It had 2 bathrooms in our office. So it's myself and a former employee named Broderick. He now brews up in Clare, but up at Four Leaf, yeah. But he was downstairs, and I was like, all right, gotta go do my thing upstairs. Be back in like 10 minutes, you know. And he's like, all right, we weren't busy, but then out of nowhere, apparently we had like 15 people all come in, so he got super busy. And I could hear all the commotion going on, and then out of nowhere, I'm hearing footsteps come up the stairs and into the office, and I'm sitting on the toilet going, what the fuck are you doing? There's people down there. Like, why are you, like, if anything, run, don't walk. Like, what do you need? And so, like, I get done real quick, and I head out, and there's no one there.
Yeah.
And I go downstairs, and I'm like, Broderick, what'd you come upstairs for? He goes, dude, do you see this? I've literally been down here this whole time. And I, like, everyone's like, oh, it's probably just, like, hearing people banging on the bar or something like that.
No.
But I'm like, no. I heard the tone and depth difference of walking up stairs.
Somebody with
And
boots
I'm
walking
like,
upstairs.
it's always been a thing. I think his name was, like, Bruce or something like that.
Gus.
Gus, yeah, at the old place, because he would used to fuck with people at the old place. And so, like, it just kind of followed us here. The only explanation I could think of is on those rings, I think we have, like, the plastic, and maybe there's, like, a seam in the plastic, and it just kind of slipped off because of gravity. But
it's pretty.
If it's not
vibrant.
Gus.
It's vibrant.
And honestly, like, I've been the last person in this place, and you just hear, like, the fermenters bubbling, and you just kind of hear the little hum.
Yeah.
Whenever there's a tiny little tick, you're just like, what?
Who's here? Who's here?
Like, it's a weird, creepy place to be alone in. And so I also think, like, maybe your mind just plays tricks on you because you
Probably.
want to do that. But for sure, at the old place,
Ghost.
Motherfucking ghost ran up the stairs.
When I gotta walk in here at like dead of night to take meat off or something like that,
Yeah.
it's like just dark when I come here. I'm already paranoid.
Yeah.
I'm just walking
Yeah,
in here,
wow.
just checking my back every step. I'm like, oh my
Yep.
god.
All right, fellas.
Nice having
It's a
you.
pleasure.
Yep.
Eric Foch.
Good talking to you guys. Come in for. I'll probably see you guys in here if you're having a beer.
Yeah, we'll be
I'd say
back.
about
We'll be
3
back
hours.
around
They're gonna
2
do
hours, probably
Joey's
2
bar
hours.
and then come back. And,
Oh yeah, for sure. I closed, so yeah, come on in.
Heck yeah, we'll be here.
And
So are you.
Yep. So will he. He will.
Thank you.
They both will. I'll be here for a little bit. I'm gonna
I
have something to eat.
mean, you guys have any questions for us?
No, not really.
Based out of Toledo?
How was interviewing us? How's the aesthetic? How do you like?
I love the aesthetic. I mean, it was a great interview.
We've definitely done some shady spots. So
We've done everything from like I feel like hole in the wall to like we haven't done like any 5-star restaurants, but we've done some pretty well actually.
I would say Firefly though, like their back room and shit.
Firefly, I've
yeah,
heard of
we-
them. I've heard of them.
Yeah,
They're fucking nice.
we've done some like we did like a world renowned mixologist in Canada who like Drake comes to his bar every month. Like so we've
the guy in Toronto.
yeah, we haven't gone there yet, but we're
In terms of like in-person interviews though.
yeah, it went well.
Oh
There's
yeah.
definitely a lot of like brewery talk. Usually we do a like you really never know what they're gonna be, I guess. Sometimes it's like okay, it's like more entrepreneur focused and sometimes it's like more like experience bar focused or like
I mean, that's kind of
That's
that's kind of really what we are, though. Like the summit is really just like in a recent addition,
Right.
back in 2019 or whatever.
Yeah, 2019.
Yeah, when
Yep.
this place opened.
February.
right.
But yeah, I mean, there's not really another smokehouse in Mount Pleasant where you can go in restaurant style
Nope.
and get like actual smoked meat. There's like a Roadhouse barbecue down the road where you can just pull up and eat outside at a picnic table.
But it's not this.
Yeah, and then you don't have 22 craft homemade beers on tap.
If you guys want to drink this quickly, this didn't get sealed correctly, and so it's like kind of
Yeah.
leaking. But if you want, this is our King of Second Chances double dry hopped IPA.
But we'll give it a second chance.
Yeah,
Give me a
as
chance.
Abba said, take a chance on me.
No, I just want
There we
some-
are.
I just
It's
want
good.
this.
It's a very good IPA. That was brewed by Chris Coate. He's the most senior brewer that we have now.
It's a maltster.
Maltster. Yeah, he's a maltster. So he has his own malting business.
All you.
That's something else also that
I
I
gotta
didn't
drive so you can have more
know
next time.
about it. I didn't know that about beer is that like, I mean, you can't just take grain and make beer out of it. You have to malt the grain for about a week. For
Okay.
between 7 to 10 days to actually get malted grain is basically like it's partially germinated but not germinated. It's like where you have it sitting in water that's around like 68 to 65 to 68 degrees, and then you have like an arm basically like moving it very, very slow, like one rotation an hour kind of thing, where it's like very, very slowly keeping it from just settling and staying there, and you just leave it in there, and it activates certain proteins and enzymes that you need to actually be able to brew beer out of it, basically turn it into wort, which is when yeast is added to the wort, then it becomes beer. But wort is like the hot liquid that you pull out as much of the sugar and flavor from the grain as possible. Basically, that liquid is what becomes the beer after fermentation, essentially. And the fermentation, the yeast converts the sugar that it can access. Also, the malting makes that sugar available for the yeast to use, breaks it down into an easier form for them to digest, basically, where it turns it into like dextrose and like glucose and whatnot, so that you can actually turn it into alcohol, essentially. Different sugars that are simpler, basically, and easier for the yeast to actually eat. And if there's not enough sugar, then you add sugar. We add cane sugar to our beer if we need. Like the Trainwreck has like probably 50 pounds of sugar added to it.
But that's for like a whole batch, right?
Yeah, that's a whole batch of 15 barrels. So that's a lot of beer. 15 barrels is, it's 31.5 gallons per barrel. So
a lot of
31.
beer.
Yeah, so times 15, that's like almost 500 gallons or so in a 15 barrel batch. And we usually, when we make Trainwreck, we make a double batch of it. So we'll brew, somebody will come in at like 7 a.m. and brew until noon, and then somebody else will come in and brew a second batch right after that, and we put it in the same tank. So then there's about 30 barrels in that tank, which is about 900 gallons of
Which is
beer.
a lot of
Which
beer.
are those big tall boys back there, basically?
It's like what, there's 4 pints in a gallon, right? Something
Yep,
like
4
that?
pints. No, yes. A pint is 16 ounces, and 4 pints is 64, and then the 128 ounces is a gallon. So, There's 8 pints in a gallon.
Okay, 8 pints. My
And
math
so-
is a little off right now.
8 times 31 and a half times 30.
A lot.
A lot of beers. So
This-
like,
This one tastes pretty. It tastes like a standard IPA to me, kind of.
Yep.
I don't know if that's what it's meant to be,
Yep.
but it's like it just tastes like your standard, like
Yep.
good, like IPA.
IPAs are tough to tell apart unless you've had a lot of them. I personally don't. It's not a style that I really like that much,
Yeah.
but I can definitely tell the difference here. I'll have some of that too.
I've probably had a good 100-ish. I'm not by any means an expert. I know
It's a
little
hazy
bit,
IPA, obviously.
You know the type
Like,
of
you
beer,
can't see
know
through
what
it.
it's supposed
Yeah,
to be.
I know what it's supposed
You
to taste
smell
like.
it.
to
You
some
smell
extent.
grapefruit, citrus fruits type. Like mostly grapefruit is something that I always pick up a lot, or pine, like piney notes to it. But
Yeah, recently just found out that Danley's Country House down in our hometown in Tecumseh has Trainwreck on tap.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't even know that.
Danley's,
So,
wow.
So we send that.
I
down there.
mean, James' cousins own it.
Yeah, and then
Wow.
we're in most Myers in Michigan.
Myers have
So
Trainwreck
just
and
Trainwreck.
Rail.
I would
Yeah.
definitely get the Trainwreck again if I see it anywhere.
Yeah, that's
It's a yellow
that's how I
bottle.
would.
It's got the yellow and black label on it,
Yeah,
so
I
it's
like-
pretty easy to see.
It's like it's almost like scary, but like grab me scary.
Yeah.
You know?
It's
like a skull
high
and
up there in
crossbones.
ABV, but it's way easy to drink. So
Yeah.
it's like,
Exactly. One was good for that.
All right, boys, we're crossing the almost 1:30 mark here.
Perfect.
Any last thoughts, and then also where can people find you, either in person or online, social media, anything you want to plug?
So I don't really do social media other than like Facebook, and that's just like a personal thing. But I don't have an Instagram or a Twitter or anything like that. Not trying to get a following, but I mean, you can always find me here like Monday through Friday, 9 in the morning until 4, at least 5 o'clock at night.
So
in the
brewing?
afternoon, working in the cellar, either assisting with a brew, cleaning a tank, kegging off a beer, carbonating something, adding juice to something. Filling barrels was fun this past week. That's always entertaining to do. We have a special tool, a little spear tool for that puts the beer in the kegs and the barrels basically. But yeah, I would say.
Where can we find Summit and Mountain Town and all that on social medias?
you can just search Summit Smokehouse and Tap Room on Facebook. That's kind of where we're most active for our restaurant side, and as well as Mountain Town Brewing Company. Both those, just anywhere, Instagram, Facebook. I'm Alex Frederick 13 on Twitter if you want to get at me on there. That's kind of really all I use. But yeah, come check us out. Get the wings, get our burn ends.
Wings, though. Get
our
those
biscuit are
wings.
pretty good. So
Hey,
yeah.
sure.
Thank you, boys.
Yeah,
Thank you for joining us
Thanks
today.
for coming.
Thank you.
All right, After Hours Nation, we hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you'd like to stay updated, you can check out our site at afterhourscast.com. Don't forget to tune in next Tuesday morning for our next episode. After Hours Nation, stay thirsty, my friends.